Welcome friends of WildRift to the RiftGuides WildRift video, and today we're gonna bring back an all-time classic with the counter the meta. But before we jump into the video, I'm going to ask you a question of the day. What champion do you fear the most and why in the current cycle of the game? At the very first part of this list, we have Jax as a champion. But who deals pretty well against Jax or with Jax? And this time it's Kassadin. So you might say, Kassadin in the Baron lane? Nah, that's cap. No, it's actually not cap, it's actually quite powerful because of the way Kassadin works. Number 1, he has a silence ability, number 2, he has an AoE slow plus wave clear ability, and number 3, he has a ranged auto attack as a melee champion, which is a significant advantage over other melee champions. So most champions against Jax struggle with the fact that Jax can just walk into the wave, use his counter-strike, and then they're doomed. But for Kassadin it's a bit different. He can start bullying the Jax from range, and not only that, he's able to draw aggro from minions from range, so Jax can't just do his typical shenanigans, where he stays in the wave, uses counter-strike and beats you up. However, there are certain few rules you have to abide by unless you desire to die, so listen in closely. The moment Jax has access to his jump ability and his counter-strike, you need to be a little bit more careful. You can't just waste your energy wave. Your goal is to keep it, and then use it, and then run away from him using the slow and the silence to stop him from triggering the counter-strike again to stun you. With this, you'll have an easy time avoiding the damage. Another thing you can do as you hit level 5 onwards, you just have to jump away with your ultimate, away from his counter-strike, then wait with your energy wave ability because his counter-strike reduces AoE abilities by 25% in terms of damage, and then you just turn around and beat him up. Just go for quick burst trades and then wait for another cycle of cooldowns. You keep on repeating this and there's no way in this universe where Jax will ever reach you, unless you make mistakes. And this is something that's very mandatory in this matchup. You're not allowed to make mistakes, which might sound hard and sometimes unreasonable, but as Kassadin is a champion that scales and is unbelievably broken, it is something that's worth training. And please, for the love of God, don't go Grasp, go Fleet Footwork, it's just the best rune out there for Kassadin. Oh, and did I mention that Kassadin outscales Jax by a lot, also impacts the teamfight better, and is overall better in terms of mobility? Yeah, because that's the truth. And for Kassadin, all he needs to do is farm, scale and beat you up, and there's nothing you can really do about it. This champion is just too unbalanced in what he does and too easy to play. Especially the silence ability needs to be, let's say, fine-tuned. Now that we talked about Kassadin, what deals with Kassadin? With Kassadin, you need lane presence, you need power, you need dominance, and what champion comes to mind better than Lucian here? Well, nobody, because Lucian is one of the most lane-dominant champions there are, because of what he can do. Number 1, he can use his piercing light ability from range to poke out the enemy. Number 2, he can build a slow push into your tower, so if he stacks up a huge and massive wave, calls his jungler over and dives you. And due to the relative champion strength, Lucian can do this every single time, 100% of the times. He just needs to be good at it. With that in mind, you just slowly poke out the Kassadin while preparing for a massive dive to put the Kassadin behind. Another thing you should consider taking is the Exhaust Summoner spell. With the Summoner spell, Kassadin's trading pattern becomes relatively problematic for him, because yet again I told you before, Kassadin deals in burst damage, and Exhaust excels at dealing with burst damage. Therefore, minimizing Kassadin's burst damage and allowing you to prevail or showcase your DPS capabilities, it becomes easier and easier to deal with the Kassadin. Nonetheless, since we are talking about the WildRift, this matchup is more of a containment matchup. If the Kassadin doesn't want to die, he will never die, because you need jungle assistance to actually kill him. Fleet Footwork and a second ability allow him to deal too much damage and sustain too much during laning phase, especially if he runs Ruby Crystal and the second Wind Rune. Yet again, it's about putting him behind early game and snowballing the game and ending the game early. You're not allowed to let him scale, because then you will surely lose the game. That's a fact. Next up comes one of my lovely favorites. It's the people that just blind pick Nami in Legendary Queue in Legend rank. It happens so many times, and it's like Christmas for me, because all I have to do is lock in Soraka and I just lose. Let me walk you through this matchup. So as a Soraka, you start with the Ruby Crystal and your first ability, and then you just fist fight the enemy on cooldown, because your frequency of healing and trading is vastly superior to Nami. Another thing you have to take notice of is the way Soraka works up level 2 onwards. The moment she hits level 2 and hits her first ability and has access to a second ability, she heals her AD carry for more than 130 HP. Now if you compare it to Nami's numbers, it just doesn't compare, because you heal more, out-sustain them, and just crush them. The only way Nami can possibly deal with you is hitting level 5 with an anti-healing item. If she doesn't have this and doesn't hit you with the wave plus bubble, you will never die and you will always win. And the true secret about Soraka lanes, it's about fighting. Most people believe that those so-called ego supports are passive, but that isn't true at all. Those enchanter supports are one of the most aggressive supports by design. If you're good at playing them, you will see that your damage numbers will probably be a lot higher than those typical AD carry players, because your champions are overset, unbalanced and broken in the way they work. But people for some reason believe they have to hide behind the AD carry, when in fact in reality in laning phase you're way stronger than any AD carry, maybe not Draven though. That is the idea, you want to fistfight enemies, beat them up and out-sustain them. This is the strategy against the Nami and will work 100% out of the times unless you miss every single spell or your AD carry refuses to play. Nonetheless, your impact on the map will be severely higher because of the way your champion works. Healing is just broken and people just say, "My anti-healing lol," it's not gonna help. Your Soraka, you'll still heal like 1700 a minute. Good luck. Next on the list we have Shyvana. And what deals quite well with the Shyvana if it isn't Olaf? Shyvana is vastly known as a full clear jungle that wants to accelerate in the terms of farming, and Olaf can just do the same. Or he can just invade her and beat her up because there's no way she can defend herself against him. Nonetheless, Olaf has a very insane fast full clear, so he can go for the consistent option and just fight the Shyvana with the power of his ultimate. Because as we know, the lower the Olaf gets, the more dangerous he becomes because of the attack speed. So always keep that in mind as it's really powerful. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that Shyvana's ultimate ability is like kind of a knockback ability. Olaf's ultimate just nullifies that and allows the Olaf to just play however he wants to play. There's no immediate downtime and he'll just beat her up because of the DPS power he has. Nonetheless, if the Shyvana happens to get fed, your days are numbered because she'll probably just devour you. But if you're on curve or at least even, you'll have a pretty decent time against her because Olaf's damage is simply unbalanced in the way he works against melee champions. But now we move over to the real hard piece of this. It's how to counter Ezreal and Lucian. So technically AD carries are not really the best picks in the game. But, and here comes the big but, AD carries playing against lower skill players have it easy to farm kills. That's the reason why you see a lot of legend AD carry players with a high win rate, because they can consistently farm bad bot laners. It is literally easy. I swapped myself from jungle to support because it's just so easy to kill them. You have 10 to 15 kills a game because they just can't play the game. It applies to legend and immortal rank by the way, so trust me, it works. But let's talk about the matchups in general. It's about yet again containing them, because mages are significantly easier to pilot than anything else in the dragon lane. AD carries on the other hand require some more understanding, some more positioning, and overall better hands to be piloted with. On the other hand, mages need to spam their abilities and have a great time, because mage items are broken and mages in the way they work are just overbearing. For example, let's say you're a brand and all you have to do is suicide and press all your buttons into the entire enemy team and you'll have insane value. Now think about doing the same on an AD carry like Caitlyn. You just turn out to be useless, you're just nothing. The same applies to any other AD carry, you just can't do this, whereas AP carries, as long as they get off their cooldowns at least once, have immense value. And this is the goal of the thing. You don't want to die, and as an AP carry it's super easy to never die because of the way your champions work. You can just spam spells into the wave, clear the wave, and then back off. The ultimate goal against those two champions is to just never die. And with those champions, you have an easy way doing so.